Ask me anything about politics. This is the show where you can ask anything about politics that you like, regardless of if it is simple or complicated, regardless of if it is a left wing person's questions or a right wing person's questions. All good faith questions will be given good faith answers. So if you got any questions about politics, just put them in the chat and we will get to answering them. I know that politics can be really intimidating when you're first trying to learn about it. I know it can feel like trying to learn a new language. And I also know that things are particularly weird these days with all the misinformation and propaganda that is running around rampant out there. And so this is the show where you can ask any questions that you like about politics and you'll get them answered, like if you're just trying to learn, or if you are confused about what's actually going on because there's so much misinformation and propaganda out there, like you can ask all those questions and we can all get to the bottom of this shit together. D. May says, can I debate, please, on the event in Minneapolis? I think it's weird, D. May, that you are asking to debate me on a topic that you do not know where I stand on. And so it doesn't really seem like you're here to engage. It seems like you're here to fight. And so I'm gonna respectfully decline your request unless something changes. So yeah, excellent start to the live stream, everybody. Welcome. My name is Jared. I'm here to answer all your questions about politics, be they simple or complicated, be they left wing or right wing. Everybody is welcome here, whether you are a Democrat or Republican, something in the middle or something on the outskirts. There is no such thing as a too far right or too far left question that you can ask. D. May says, okay, is Trump good in any aspect? No, Trump is a real piece of shit. He is, I can't say enough negative things about him. He is incompetent. He is a narcissist. He is a liar. He is corrupt. He is a bad business person. He's facilitated the deaths of countless numbers of people. You know, there's like nothing good I can say about him. Alrighty. Any questions at all about politics? Just put them in the chat, everybody, and we will get to answering them. Everybody is welcome here. This is not a space for fighting or roasting or bullying or debating. D. May says, but he was friends with Ronaldo and my boy Sequin Barkley. Yeah, I don't really care who you're friends with. If you are, if you are empowering ICE to do the shit that they're doing, if you are illegally invading foreign nations and kidnapping their presidents, if you have a cryptocurrency and you're making billions of dollars off of being president, if you're accepting, limitless bribes from people who will never be able to figure out because it's all coming in through cryptocurrency, yeah, you're a fucking piece of shit. Marie says, are you Democrat or Republican? I'm a Democrat. Froylan Sandoval says, do you support what happens to Marie Antoinette? Now, I don't condone any kind of political violence. And so, but I get it. I get like there's this kind of like poetic, rhetoric around eat the rich, invest in guillotines. How many of these fucking billionaires have had their let their eat cake moment already? And like, what are we going to do about it? But again, I don't condone any kind of violence. I think that, as a non-history major, I think that before they executed her, they had probably made their point already. But, again, I'm not a history major. I just don't condone violence of any kind. Jazz says, what are the chances realistically that we can get him impeached? Why isn't Congress doing anything? So, Jazz, Congress isn't doing anything because it's under control of the Republican Party right now. And the Republican Party has proven time and time again that they do not give a shit about the citizens of this country or the rule of law or the international order or anything. They only care about power and money. And so they don't care if the president does impeachable things so long as it's a president of their party. And they don't care if a Democratic president does not do things that are impeachable. They will try to impeach that president. So if we want Trump to be impeached, we have to vote for Democrats. We have to replace every Republican that's in government with a Democrat so that there could be some sort of legal accountability for Trump and all the people in his orbit who have engaged in all of this barbaric and illegal activity. All right. D. May says, thoughts about Dean Withers making fun of Charlie Kirk. I don't know if Dean Withers made fun of Charlie Kirk post-assassination. I think it's in poor taste to make fun of people who got assassinated. I don't think that Charlie Kirk was a good guy. He was a liar. He was a con artist. But that doesn't mean that he should have been assassinated. And I don't think that you should make fun of people who are assassinated. Marie says, do you think both sides are corrupted? So no, but with an asterisk on it, Marie. Like, there's a big difference between corruption on the Democratic side and corruption on the Republican side, where it's not just that there are more corrupt and worse corrupt politicians on the Republican side. It's that the very platform of the Republican Party is a pro-corruption platform. They are allowing one of the most blatant examples of political corruption to happen under President Donald Trump. They are allowing it to happen. They are fine with it. It is their job to make sure that shit like this doesn't happen. It's their job to make sure that presidents don't have crypto coins or hotels that foreign leaders can stay in as a form of a bribe, or accepting $400 million jets from the Qatari royalty. Like, that is their job. They are in charge of Congress right now, and they are asleep at the wheel for that shit. So yeah, you can show me like individual Democrats who are doing shady shit. You can show me individual Democrats who are trading stocks based on insider information, which isn't illegal at the moment, but is definitely shady as shit. But it just does not compare to the amount of corruption that is happening in the Republican Party and the amount of corruption they are enabling. Like, all of their platforms and legal wins for the past decade have been loosening regulations around bribery and corruption so that it is either harder to find or more legal, easier to do, shit like that. Marie says, I'm conservative, and one of my friends who is a liberal no longer talks to me. What are your thoughts? I think that I don't know what your personal situation is with that friend. I do not think, I personally have cut off people because of politics, and now, I'm trying to do a new thing because I feel like maybe more people can be convinced to have better beliefs than before, where I thought that the best way of dealing with it was like the social consequence of having those ideas that I find so abhorrent. And so, I can't say that this person cutting you off was they were right to do it or they were wrong to do it. I'll just tell you that I am not going to do that. I instead would really like to talk to you about why you're conservative, and maybe if you are open to, recognizing that you have incorrect ideas or have believed propaganda, by accident, some shit like that. Okay, On a Smile and a Shoestring says, why can't us modernize its democracy like other civilized countries? Don't say exceptional. It's really because of billionaires and Republican Party. Like, they're the ones that are stopping all of this great progress from happening. Brian says, you can be conservative without supporting corruption. I haven't seen it in government. I'm sure that there are individuals out there, but all the elected leaders and talking heads like Ben Shapiro and Alex Jones and Elon Musk and shit like that, like, they're all completely fine with corruption. Hello, user 727. I generally appreciate you as well. Okay, Marie says, why can't liberals and conservatives just get along and find a happy medium, So Marie, I would like to ask you a question. Are you still, because I want to answer your question there. Are you still here? Let me know in the chat if you're still here, Marie, because I would love to answer that question. Malord says, hi, it's been a while since I've seen you. Do you post on YouTube? Yes, I do. And in fact, I simulcast. I am simulcasting on YouTube right now. Marie says, yes, I'm still here. Okay, so let's say that there were two political parties in America. And one of the political parties was, whatever you believe. And the other political party was, we need to throw you, Marie, in jail. And that's their whole platform. And for some reason, 40% of the country believes that you should be in jail. And you have a friend who is of that political party. Like, wouldn't you find that a little disconcerting? Like, wouldn't you seriously consider your friendship with that person if they voted for the party that was actively trying to throw you in jail for no reason? As part of this hypothetical, we're assuming that you have not done a crime. And so that is important to recognize, that you are an innocent person who, for some reason, there's an entire political party that wants to throw you in jail, and potentially worse, Do you think that you would just be like, all right, well, this is just politics, just difference of opinion? Or would you consider, how valuable or how sincere that friendship is? Let me know what you think about that, Marie. Alrighty, Muzz King, Triska, and Malord, thank you so much for helping me reach my first gift goal of the day. Diego Vargas says protests aren't working, whistleblowers aren't working, seems like nothing will stop ICE. Diego Vargas, it is working. The work is working. And we as Americans have a huge debt to pay to the citizens of Minnesota for doing all of this great work. So ICE goes out there and when I say ICE, I'm kind of like doing a shorthand for like all of the immigration enforcement that is being perpetrated under the Trump administration. So it's like Customs and Border Enforcement is also out there doing atrocities under, or used to be under, Greg Bovino. But we just kind of call it ICE. Just it's all muddled together in like one big thing of ICE. So knowing that it's ICE and CBE, Customs and Border Enforcement, CBE, they went out there and they shot a woman. They murdered a woman. And instead of backing down at all, they ramped things up. And then the people of Minnesota ramped things up. And now we are starting to see Donald Trump backing away from this. We are starting to see cooler language come out of the White House. So the work is working. It's not enough. We need more. We need more people doing the work. We need to see more things changing in the government. We need to see the Democratic Party doing more. We need to see leadership doing more. But the work is working 100%. We just need more. I completely disagree that, Ellipsis says, Berenstein, I know exactly what you are. Is it the fella who is servicing your mom on the regular? Because if so, that is accurate. Phil says, Bovino being fired is a sign that the protests are working. Yes, 100%, Phil. Accurate as hell. Sherryology says, and all the citizens need to amp it up in the whole country. Yes, that is accurate. Feathers of Logic says they will face the consequences. Not automatically, Feathers. Remember how these people are aligned with very powerful people. And so in order for them to face accountability from Trump down, we have to do the work. Because without more Democrats in government, both at the state and federal level, it will be really easy for those people to avoid accountability in the future. Brian says, Bondi is demanding Minnesota voter rolls to purge them. Yeah, it doesn't really seem like this has anything to do with immigration enforcement if handing over the voter rolls is going to get ICE to leave, Alrighty, scrolling up. Dadva says, if you didn't gaslight these people, they wouldn't have died. Blood is on your hands. So Thad VA, are you still here? Because I don't think that thing that you just said was accurate or in good faith. Some claim the whole due process argument, but I found some situations under Deporter and Chief weird. Why the outrage? Obama deported significantly more in 5 years with the same guy heading ICE. Thad, I would love to tell you what I think is wrong about all those things that you just said. AV says, what are your view on politics? I'm a progressive Democrat. Marie says, I just think it's wrong to cut off and hate someone due to a political opinion. Well, you didn't really answer my question, Marie. I'm saying, what if the other political opinion is fuck you, Marie, very specifically? Like, how would you feel if you had friends that voted for the political party that their whole platform was fuck Marie, throw her in jail, she sucks? Okay, scrolling down. Let's see here. Marie, still waiting on a response there. Thad is clearly gone. He just wanted to come in here and lie and then leave. Feathers of Logic says after Trump. Again, that is not a given, Feathers of Logic. Even after Trump is gone, it will still be possible for them to skate accountability if we do not do the work. Eduardo says, yo, what do you think about Romanian politics? I don't have any information on that, unfortunately. Flute Heidi says, for doing their civic duty. Marie is a nurse who is fine that a nurse just got murdered for doing their civic duty. We're not gonna start calling Marie a hypocrite. Right now, we're trying to get Marie, to recognize that cutting people off because of their politics might be justified in some situations. So we're gonna turn the temperature down on arguing with people within the chat who appear to be here in good faith so far. Ms. Gonna Be All Right Someday says, if the ICE insurrection were actually about numbers, they'd be focused on Texas, Florida, and California. That is accurate. Sherryology says, they're, in my opinion, going to label every Democrat a domestic terrorist. Yeah, if they had not gotten the pushback that they had in Minnesota, then that would still be the track that we are on. But right now they are doing sort of like a strategic retreat on this issue and hope that they are able to get back into it soon. Marie says, I'd be pretty upset about that, honestly. Okay, Marie. So a lot of people who believe that it is righteous to cut off people based on politics, they feel the same way as you because they view the Republican Party as being anti-LGBTQ. They view the Republican Party as being anti-poor. They view the Republican Party as being anti-worker. And so anybody that votes for this party that is hurting marginalized communities, that is hurting the working class, that is hurting our reputation on the world stage, they might view that as an indictment of you as a human being. You know, I had an aunt who sent me some Facebook message about how we need to support Trump. And, you know, I'm in an interracial relationship. My wife and I, we've been married for a couple of years now, and we're expecting our first child. And I have an aunt who is so excited about me bringing a child into the world, who has always said such nice things about me, is actively supporting a president who has made our lives worse and more dangerous. My wife was the victim of a hate crime in New York City, and I can trace those dots directly back to things that Donald Trump said. You know, so can you understand why this might be a thing? You know, Heidi, Marie, let me know what you think about that. All right, Hinterspell says, do you support a united Ireland? I support whatever the people of Ireland want. I don't know enough about that issue to comment on it more specifically than that. Gad says, Jarrett, threw my points in Twitch when you get a bit. Thanks. Gad, I do not see any comments on my Twitch stream right now. I'm not seeing any comments on Twitch or YouTube. So let me know if that is an issue that is happening and I need to change something on my streaming setup, because it is weird that I have 5 people watching and no comments. I usually get some comments by this point. Marie says, I totally get what you're saying and respect that everyone can have an opinion. Yeah, you know, so why would you consider yourself a conservative, Marie? What are the issues that are most important to you that make you a conservative, vote Republican, however you describe it? Rose Strebel says, is it time for people on the good side to start being more aggressive on how we demand politicians? I guess it just depends on what you mean by aggressive. Like, I don't believe in any kind of violence or property destruction or anything, but, you know, there are lots of legal ways to put pressure on our elected representatives and also billionaires and giant corporations. And I think that every human being should be doing those things. I think they should have started doing those things a year ago, you know, or maybe further, you know, maybe even earlier than that. Yeah. Osla says, what was Marx's theory of labor value? I am not sure exactly if that's like a specific phrase, like his theory of labor value. I believe the general gist of what Marx was saying is that labor creates more wealth than they are given and are entitled to. And so they should own the means of production, because then it would be more equitable distribution of the wealth that they are creating. Let me know if I'm off base, Osla, because I kind of think that question was not a you're curious. I kind of think that question was more a you want to test me kind of a thing. Marie says, for me personally, I believe in borders. I'm more raised traditional lifestyle, I would say. Okay, well, you know, the Democratic Party believes in borders as well, right? Like, do you think that the Democratic Party is like anti-borders or for open borders or anything like that? Because if you want like border protection, like the Democratic Party has been doing that, and in fact, they had a bipartisan bill under the Biden administration to try to actually fix some of the border issues, but then Donald Trump killed that bill because he wanted to run on that as an issue. Like, let me know what you think about this stuff, Marie. Thank you, Gad. I appreciate you helping me troubleshoot my comments, you know, potentially not going through on. Yeah, it doesn't seem like the chats are coming through on all the channels. That is upsetting. I gotta figure out how to do that. Yeah, why isn't the chat working? That's really weird. All right, hold on. Sorry, everybody. Just gotta do a little finagling here so I can make sure that I'm seeing everybody's comments. Okay, let's see here. Wally TTV says, do you like all this outrage over ICE is to cover up all the fraud do you think that all this outrage over ICE is to cover up all the fraud that they've been finding? So the Trump administration, they do really, really, really bad things a lot. And all of those bad things are both the bad things that they want to be doing and also they are, a distraction from the other bad things that they are doing. It's called flooding the zone. They are trying desperately to have so many negative things that they are currently doing that it is impossible for everybody to, to be as upset about them as they should be. Okay, let's see here. Let's get on this chat here. All right, so Twitch, I've got your chat up, Twitch. So sorry, I don't know why I was missing all of these, guys. My apologies. Okay, let's see here. Let's gonna go ahead and pop this out as well. Okay, yes, my apologies to everybody for the delay here. I just want to make sure I'm seeing everybody's comments as I am simulcasting. All right, I gotta figure out how to do that because I really like that feature of Restream where it puts all my comments in one place. Okay, back into the TikTok comments. What's up, Willie? Great to see you again. Sophia, great to see you again. How do you think politicians are supposed to raise taxes on billionaires when many have stocks, not income? That's a really good question, Sophia, and I honestly don't have a fully baked policy proposal for that. Will I just say that there are ways to do it? It is not impossible to tax, stocks and not income. People like Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders have been proposing this stuff for a long time, that we should be taxing people based on their net value as opposed to just their income, that we should be taxing people with multiple properties more for their non-main property, and there should be vacancy taxes, or if you are taking up prime real estate in cities where real estate is desperately needed for people, so it's there's a ton of mechanisms for it. We just have to, have smart people who are down with, with doing that work and making that happen. Robert Castroy says, in light of recent events, I feel like the impending shutdown is going to be longer than the last. I agree with you, Robert, and I don't think that that's a bad thing necessarily. And, I think that we look at things too short term if we think will the shutdown stop what ICE is doing? And if the answer is no, then we shouldn't shut down the government. I disagree with that. I think that this is, I don't know, it just does not make sense to put your name behind funding a government that is actively doing what ICE and Customs and Border Enforcement are currently doing. And so, I think that the pain that people will feel because of a government shutdown will be directly attributed to the Trump administration, the Republican Party, and the way that ICE and CBE are operating in America. Okay, Cracked Out Sox fan says, Jared, glad to catch a stream. Very interesting to me. How fast this narrative was created by DHS. What if there was no video? BM shocked. The letter from BB about voter rolls didn't make the headlines that it should have, kind of slipped the crack. It's all absurd. Thanks. Excited to hear your points. I mean, they're doing a million terrible things intentionally. And they are lying. We don't know how much more they're lying about because it's so brazen the way that they're lying in the face of overwhelming video evidence proving the contrary. They are raptors testing the cages for what they can get away with. They are accelerating. They are distracting. It's not one specific strategy. It's let's do really shitty things and hope that the compound effect means that we just overwhelm people in various ways. Jolene Rice says everything. They're lying about everything. Yes, accurate. Let's see here. Jolene Rice says, I hope so because they love to twist it around and make it about Democrats' fault. Yes, I completely agree with that, Jolene. Sophia says, but wouldn't that cause them to relocate, leaving the higher taxes for the middle class to pay? So, Sophia, there are mechanisms by which we can force rich people to not be able to take all of their money to other countries. There's a reason why when you travel to another country, you have to declare, oh, I have more than $10,000 worth of goods on me right now, because they are trying to stop the active relocation of businesses and net worth to other countries just for more favorable tax policies. And one of the things that the Biden administration was working on was a global minimum tax rate so that rich people could not shop for a new nation for all of their ill-gotten spoils, Yeah, and when Trump got elected, obviously he stopped that entirely. On a personal note, I say let these fuckers leave. Like, do you have any idea how much there are people out there who want to start a new Walmart or a new Target or a new Amazon or some shit? It's like, yeah, fucking leave, take your businesses. That you're just leaving money on the table because those needs are still going to be here in America, and we will happily create other businesses, smaller businesses, to fill those gaps. Alrighty, let's see here. Willie says, but wouldn't that require every country to comply and agree to a set tax rate? Yes, Willie, and that was what was happening. Like, we were in negotiations, we were making it happen. I think there are probably certain countries that are, hostile to the idea of working with America on that. Countries like North Korea, for example, countries like Iran, for example, potentially. But I think that even if we didn't get every single country, so long as we got the big ones, we will probably be okay. There are probably complications to moving all of your wealth and businesses to Iran or North Korea that would not make it worthwhile for those businesses. Chewy says, what do you think about young men joining the military? I mean, I have a lot of very complicated feelings about the military. On the one hand, I do think that they are necessary. On the other hand, I think that it is a way that we have been exploiting poor people and undereducated people for a long time, just like giving them this avenue to advance their own situation. And meanwhile, they come back with like massive PTSD, and we then defund all of the programs that are designed to help them get back into, regular ass life. Like, it's kind of monstrous what they do to people. And so, yeah, like, how do we have a more humane military? Like, how do we protect ourselves without wasting all of this stupid fucking money on government contracts and useless fucking forever wars and shit like that? Like, there are so many things that need to change therein. But also, I'm not going to tell a poor person like what are your options? Like, starve to death on the street or go join the military. Like, only you can say what the better option is for you. But yeah, it frustrates me to no end that part of the goal of the Republican Party is to make people so desperate that they have to join the military, that's their only option. And so that's another reason why I am actively, lobbying for people to vote more and vote consistently against the Republican Party. All right, Scott Clower says, I'm sure Trump's Board of Peace is working on a global tax. Yeah, for real, Scott. All right, Cracked Out Sox fan says, how does Noam have a job? Because the Trump administration doesn't really give a shit about how good she is at her job. They just want her to do what they tell her to do, and she's doing it. Marie says, almost my entire family is in the military. Well, I thank them for their service. Marie, did you respond, Marie, to that thing that I told you about the border and shit like that? Because I have not seen anything, but I was also in the middle of dealing with some technical issues, Marie. So yeah. Okay. Marie says, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't Kamala's job as VP Borders? So the answer is yes and no to that, Marie. And so, yes, it is true that that was kind of a title and a responsibility that Biden gave to her, but the vice president famously does not have a ton of power. There are things that she did that I thought were really good. There are things that the Biden administration did, both Biden and Harris, regarding the border that I thought was really good, but it was a massive problem and some mistakes were made. But I think that those were mistakes that were made in good faith. And so I'm not really, I don't really view that as being an indictment of the Democratic Party in general. Let's see here. Yeah, let me think about that, Marie. Oreo20 says, do you think other states will follow California in joining the World Health Organization? I do, Oreo, and I think that every one of them should. Willie says, do you think the Golden Dome is a waste of money? So I'm 100% not an expert on military systems and whatnot. I defer to experts on that question, and almost everybody is saying that it is logistically impossible to do a Golden Dome, and it would just be a massive waste of money. If it could be done, I think it would be great to have some sort of a way of protecting ourselves from incoming projectiles, as we are looking towards a more unstable globe with a nuclear-powered Iran and other adversarial nations potentially wanting to, strike within the U.S. But yeah, I don't know if that's feasible. And honestly, I don't trust Trump and his coterie to handle this issue responsibly or competently. Kimberlina, great to see you again. Says, do you think we could actually get enough our senators to actually boot him after the midterm? I think that you will never lose money if you always bet on Republican politicians doing the wrong thing. And so, they've been given so many opportunities. They've been given so many opportunities to actually stand up to Trump, to hold him accountable. There were 2 impeachments in his first term. He did a fucking coup that threatened their lives. The very senators who were cowering in closets because they were worried about what Trump's fans were about to do to them, they then did not vote to fully impeach him, to convict him in the Senate. And so, yeah, if that didn't do it, I don't really have a lot of faith that they're going to do it at all. Maybe if we have 59 votes in the Senate for removing Donald Trump from office, maybe we'll get one Republican senator, the way that we got one Mitt Romney back in the day. But yeah, I wouldn't hold my breath. Average Joe says, are these new restrictions on TikTok that you've been hearing about real? So far, it seems like it's complicated but sketchy, so like people are saying that all of their e-files things and ICE things were being blocked, and without any, like, is it possible that people aren't reporting when more innocuous things are being blocked? Maybe this is like a technical issue, like we're just not really sure yet. It seems sketchy, but I can't say definitively if it's happening or not. Jolene says, after the midterms, we should be able to do it with no problem because I'm pretty sure it's going to be blue all across America. So Jolene, hold on a second. James Choppy Shop says, bro, what right wing isn't violent like that? So James, that's inaccurate. If you would like to talk about that, I will be happy to get into it. So yeah, Jolene, I love your enthusiasm, but we need to do so much work in order to overcome all of the advantages that the Republicans have in both our electoral system and our campaign finance systems. And the fact that because they fully control the government right now, they have the ability to do extremely sketchy things that could potentially throw the election their way in close elections, So let's really think about being overly confident about the midterms, Like I want 100 Democratic senators and 400 plus Democratic representatives. And anything less than that means that people like you and me needed to work harder. James Choppy Shop says, tell me, absolutely. Okay, so there is plenty of right-wing violence that happens. January 6th is a really good example, but there are other things that have happened, like Maxwell Frost just got punched in the face. 2 Democrats in Minnesota got assassinated, and that dude was trying to do it to other people. A judge that ruled against Trump had her house burned down. Like, we can go tit for tat versus, like, what Democrats done versus what Republicans have done. But if you look at the net, if you look at the average, just based on the FBI, which is very much not a liberal-leaning organization, right-wing political violence is way bigger of a problem than left-wing political violence. Let me know what you think about that. James Choppy Shop says, blue versus red, pretty obvious blue is more dangerous. Yeah, that's inaccurate, James. Unless you respond to the last thing that I said, then I'm going to have to boot you because you are not engaging in good faith. JC says, right-wing extremist violence has been the top violent threat for decades. That is accurate. Scott Clower says, we need to impeach Supreme Court members. Completely agree with that. Kimberlina says, after Harris, I'll never be overly confident again. Excellent, Kimberlina. Love to hear it. Flavius says, thoughts on how to improve the school system. I think that there are a lot of things that we need to do. I think that there should be both a minimum and a maximum class size, where a lot of times people think that the smaller the class size, the better. If you talk to teachers, they will tell you that there really is a sweet spot between like 15 and 25 students per classroom, where it can be too low and be too high. So there's that. We need to fund our schools. We need to pay our teachers more. We need to make sure that our children aren't going hungry. So we need to make sure that they have access to food. A lot of the problems that we have with education are rooted in just, poverty, and the fact that we have people living in this country who can't afford electricity or internet or food or medical care. There's a lot of things that can be done. That's just, top of my list. Okay, let's see here. Sophia says, how do you justify high taxes on the rich when inflation has already reduced America's purchasing power? I mean, I don't see how what those things have in common, Sophia. Like, if we tax the rich, um, that is not going to increase inflation. It is not going to weaken America's purchasing power. Like, I don't really see how us taking money away from the rich is going to hurt the 99%, you know? Grand Hyatt says, why do Republicans refuse to see the rise of authoritarianism in their party? A dry, sick rise. So some of it, I think, is people not getting accurate information, Grand Hurt. And some of it, I think, is people being okay with fascism so long as the fascists that are in charge are their team. Wesley says, well, immigration is clearing out those Democratic troublemakers. You know, Wesley, I'm just going to go ahead and block you right now because this is awkward. I fucked your mom last night. Max says, do you think the U.S. will strike Iran in the coming days? I don't know, Max. But I don't put it past Trump to do stupid shit like that. Mary Quinn says, right, notice how James didn't reply to what you said, but wants to argue in the comments. LOL. Yeah, you know, I'll probably go ahead and block him at some point. Thank you, Julian. I really appreciate that. Satana Kia says, thoughts on eco-fascism. I don't know what that means. Bingster says, take it from someone who is not allowed to vote in the U.S. Watch what each president does to make money. That's interesting. Bingster, I'm not really sure what you're getting at. James Shoppy Shop says, and the cities that are the most dangerous in those states are blue. So James, what you're doing is cherry picking in order to, you know, to make your points. So I can show you a red state that has way more violent crime than and then every other blue states. But then you're going to go, yeah, well, the crime is concentrated in the cities, which are blue. And it's like, well, yeah, you know, when people get together, they tend to be more democratic. So obviously cities are going to be more, you know, they're going to be more democratic than the outlying rural areas. And where people are conglomerating, there's going to be more crime because there's just more people there. You know, it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy there. So, yeah, I don't really think that you're here in good faith. I think you're kind of full of shit. So, you know, I'm not here to bully you or harass you or anything. But if you keep saying things like that, then I'm just going to get rid of you because this live stream is only for people who are here in good faith. Okay. Janet Jensen says, is James a bot? Yeah, probably. Mary Quinn says, no, for sure. You really know how to engage people well and with respect and debate properly. Thank you, Mary. I really appreciate you saying that. Jolene, hello. Florida, Texas, hello. Not really sure what that means, but hello back. Matt Guthrie says, Charlie Kirk was a prophet. I mean, I don't think he was. I did not see him do anything prophet-like. All I saw him do was lie in order to make money and make himself more popular. Okay, JP says, Minneapolis has the highest amount of protests and violence in the country for the last few weeks. Yeah, I think that's accurate, JP. I'm not sure. What's that in reference to? Ecuadorian says, I have class here shortly, but before I get off, because I'm not allowed to be on my phone, do you think Christy the Bully Gnome will be fired, will face consequences for her actions? I don't really trust Trump to do that, but she will if we give Democrats enough political power to make it happen. Okay, James Shoppy Shop says, I'm here in great faith. I'm very objective, but it seems like you are quick to block, so I don't know, man. I mean, that's clearly a lie, James, because you're still here. I am not quick to block, you know? So, yeah. Yeah, you know, it doesn't really seem like you are engaging with the things that I'm telling you. It seems like you have a list of right-wing talking points that you put in the chat regardless of me debunking them. So it's like, you know, let me know. You know, ask a question in good faith. As a gesture. Fella says, a lot of people saying we need to deport invaders are keen to tell Ukraine to just cede land. Yeah, I think that's pretty interesting. Joe Bodle says, I find it funny how the group that was so hell-bent against masks for COVID are okay with mass police. Yeah, I saw this on TikTok the other day. It was like, these people were against masks to protect other people, but they are for masks to protect ICE, who is not protecting people. So it's just like, you know, it's the height of hypocrisy and, you know, shit like that. Okay, JP says, we need to send in police, maybe ICE, to stop the violence, or is this an example of a double talk tone I shared in text and now I shared in the chat? I'm not really sure. I gotta reread that whole thing, JP, so if I can make sense of it. Okay, Matt Guthrie says, masks are useless. That is inaccurate, Matt. Ask a question or I will boot you. Okay, let's see here. Veet says, thoughts on Trump's executive order on the LA wildfire rebuilding? I don't really know anything about that, Veet. I'm so sorry about that. Conqueror says, Charlie Kirk had straight facts and always proved with a source. No, that is inaccurate, Conqueror. Ask a question or I'm going to boot you. Okay. James Shoppy Shop says, I'm open to all dialogue. Okay, well, like I said, ask a question in good faith to show me that you are indeed here in good faith. Okay. All right, things have slowed down a little bit comments-wise. Let me see if I can get into this JP comments. Minneapolis is the highest amount of protests and violence in the country for the last few weeks, so we need to send in police, maybe ICE, to stop the violence. Or is this an example of double talk? Yeah, I mean, obviously, the reason why there is so much protest and violence in Minneapolis right now is because of ICE being there. Like, it wasn't that Minneapolis was in chaos and ICE needed to come in there to reduce the chaos. Like, the chaos has increased because ICE was there. Let's see here. Shared in the chat, just seems like a hard troll day. Yeah, no, JP, you're 100% right about that. The trolls do be trolling today. Let's see here. Friedrich says, why do you wish to undermine our national identity? I don't. Friedrich, what is it about the things that I've said that made you think that that is the case? Samwise Gramsci says, do you think we are now in a multipolar hegemonic world? I'm not really sure what you mean by that. Can you say the same thing but without the graduate level vocabulary? Kimberlita says, waiting on Rittenhouse response to Pretty bringing a weapon to a protest. Kimberlita, I think that existed already. I'm not sure if it was real or not, but I did see a screenshot of somebody being like, guys, the Trump administration has lost Kyle Rittenhouse, because Kyle Rittenhouse was saying that the protester was okay to have their weapon there. Which, honestly, that's more, integrity than I thought Kyle Rittenhouse had. I think there are so many people on the right who are fine with just being like, yeah, I'm okay. It's okay if I do it, but not if you do it, kind of a thing. But yeah, I'm also not 100% sure if that was a real screenshot or not. National identity. Wonder what they mean by that. Average Joe. It says Average Joe PG. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's in the fascist Schnazi space, Average Joe, but I'm going to let that person, clear it up at their leisure. All right. Matt Guthrie says politics are made to divide people. No, Matt Guthrie, the billionaire class and the Republican Party are using politics to divide people, but politics itself is not divisive by nature. Friedrich says mass immigration of all kinds undermines Western civilization and goes against our founders. That is inaccurate, Friedrich. I believe that immigration is how all these people got here in the first place. We are a nation of immigrants. If you are not a Native American, then you are an immigrant here in this country. And so I do not believe that mass immigration undermines Western civilization and goes against our founders. I think that that is a wildly inaccurate thing to say. The Fall of Vatican says, are you Yehudi? I mean, are you asking me if I'm Jewish? My dad's Jewish, but I don't really practice any kind of religion. Friedrich says settlers and immigrants are a very different thing. America is a European construct. I mean, again, I don't agree with that at all, Friedrich. Ask a question, I'm going to boot you. Brian says the left wants to censor and oppress opposing views. No, that's not accurate, Brian Guerrera. Ask a question or I'm going to boot you. Willie says, how do you think we should end shrug problems in the country? What's shrug problem? Like people just going like, that's not me kind of a thing? I mean, that's the work, Willie. It is you and me getting out there and talking to people. OB Dano, great to see you again, says, why are we not talking about ICE not doing their job? Are they just there to cause havoc? I mean, it depends on what you think their job is. According to Stephen Miller, their job is to round up brown people. I think it's like 3,000 brown people a day. And regardless of if they are citizens or veterans or Native Americans or whatever, and anybody that stands in your way, you're allowed to murder them. That is what Stephen Miller is telling ICE to do. And Stephen Miller is kind of like the shadow president right now. So, yeah, I am upset that ICE is not doing their job. I am upset that ICE is not going after the worst of the worst people who are here illegally. I would love for ICE to be doing that. I would love for Customs and Border Enforcement to be doing that. But that's not what they're doing. They're rounding up brown people, throwing them in concentration camps, and then shooting people who stand in their way legally. Harry Tarjanian says, I have a question. Why are you so dreamy? That's very sweet of you to say that. Max says, do you think U.S. will strike? You already asked that. Jeanette Jensen says, did you hear about ICE going to Italy? Yeah, and I thought that was super weird. I was like, is there a Milan in America that this guy is the mayor of? Because why would ICE be going to Italy? Like, that's the most insane shit I've ever heard. Like, local law enforcement, federal law enforcement doesn't get to go to other countries and do their shit there. Like, that's against like a million international laws. Ariel says it's because they are scared to face the real threats. Yeah, probably. Olivid says, why does the DOJ want the Minnesota voter rolls? There is a larger project of the Trump administration to root out dissidents and to root out people that say negative things about Trump and root out people that vote against Republicans. So access to that information is going to make it easier for them to suppress dissenting voices and suppress dissenting votes. So, let's say that you have a bloc in a swing state that always votes for Democrats consistently. Maybe you can send the military to, block those streets. And it's like, you're not allowed to leave that street. There's an incident happening. Everybody on this block is not allowed to leave the house to go vote. Shit like that. Kimberlina says, will they cast whoever played Gollum to play Miller? That's very funny. Matt Guthrie says, do you think dogs will be able to vote in 2067? Matt, that's not really a good faith question. So I'm just going to go ahead and boot you right now because I'm tired of you. And last name Guthrie. There's a Mrs. Guthrie that I have been fucking regularly. Is that your mom? Carmine says, you trusting voting by mail this time around? It's a really good question. I think so long as those electoral systems are being controlled by the state governments, then yes, we should 100% be able to trust mail-in ballots. There are some sketchy things that Republicans have done to massively suppress Democratic votes, by invalidating certain ballots or curing ballots from districts that they believe are going to vote more Democratic. So where all of this stuff is concerned, it really depends on what state you live in, who your Secretary of State is, etc. But yeah, that is, generally speaking, you can trust vote by mail. The Fall of Vatican says, what's your opinion on Christianity? The same thing I feel about every religion. You are free to practice it so long as you are not impeding on the life, liberty, or pursuit of happiness of your fellow Americans. So you can be a Christian, a Catholic, a Protestant, a Jewish person, a Muslim person. You could even be a member of Scientology or the Church of Satan. Are they different? That's a bit. Nobody sue me. So yeah, that's what freedom of religion means. That's what separation of church and state. That is the whole foundation of it. Sophia says, what do you think about people getting fired in 2021 for not getting vaccinated? So good question, Sophia. I understand that this is divisive. I do think that where does your freedom to swing your fists ends at my face, as the expression goes. And so I think that it is perfectly reasonable for a company that values the health and safety of their employees to react negatively to an employee making the self-decision to not get themselves vaccinated, thereby putting everybody in their office at risk. This is where the rubber meets the road as far as like freedom and living in a community are concerned. What am I entitled to as a citizen? What am I being forced to do by the state? And so, yeah, I think it's a difficult thing. More than anything, I think the issue is misinformation around vaccines, because there are so many people out there who would not have a problem with vaccination if there were not a coordinated and extremely well-funded campaign to make people think that vaccines were more dangerous than they actually were. So yeah, I don't think that the nuts and bolts of this issue is, were those companies right to do that? Was the government right to be a part of that effort? And also, I'm not really sure what the stats are on that. I don't know how often it was happening or how involved the U.S. government was in that, or if that was just private companies. But yeah, I think that I don't really care about solving that issue. I want to solve the issue of why are there so many people who would rather get fired than get a perfectly safe vaccine that is not only safe for them, but is actively making their neighbors safe as well. Oh, right. James Shoppy Shop says, isn't that a HIPAA violation, though, to even ask that question? Yeah, potentially, James Shoppy Shop. But yeah, again, we're getting into the nuts and bolts here of how does the government respond to a rapidly rising demographic that is being inorganically fostered by a hostile group of people, how do we deal with those people who are not going to listen to reason and are going to put everybody else's lives at risk? So instead of thinking about this like you are being forced to put a bunch of chemicals in your body via a syringe, think about it like you have an employee in your company who insists on juggling live hand grenades. You know, that person is also putting themselves and everybody in that office at risk. And I think that that boss is perfectly justified in firing that person. Okay, Carmine, Moxon and Corbyn are on the line. They want to have a word with you. I don't know what those things are. Not Jake says MAGA or a bunch of babies. Not sure what that's referring to. JC says hearing about Trump's criminal cases still having teeth and a way forward. Can we hope that's true? Yeah, I mean, I trust Jack Smith implicitly. Like I literally just finished reading Injustice, which is the book that is about what happened during the 2020 Justice Department and through the Biden administration and Jack Smith and Merrick Garland. And so, yeah, if there's anybody that tells me that these criminal prosecutions are still alive, I trust Jack Smith if that's what he's saying. Oh, Scientology's legal rips. That's very funny. James Shoppy Shop says, why have any laws if we are going to pick and choose which we are going to follow? James Shoppy Shop, I got to be honest, I find that question to be a little myopic, and I think it's intentionally myopic. Like, I think that there are probably plenty of Republicans who are picking and chooses which laws to follow that you have no problem with, like the emoluments clause, for example, the fact that the Trump family is raking in billions and billions of dollars illegally through the presidency. I don't think that you really have a problem with that, and other things like that. But where it helps your agenda and where it helps the perspective that you are trying to forward, I think that you're very passionate about people following the laws and making sure that the laws are being followed and shit like that. So yeah, I don't really rate that comment at all. All right, Sophia says, I didn't get the vax, but I do get that private companies can make their own choices, so it's a gray area for me. Do you have no vaccines, Sophia, or do you just hate the COVID vaccine? Let me know. James Shoppy Shop says, how is he stealing billions? Excellent question, James Shoppy Shop. So, for example, the Qatari government gave Trump a $400 million plane, and in exchange, Americans are now going to have to fund military operations to support the government of Qatar, because in exchange for that jet, the Qatari government got basically a NATO guarantee for being defended. That's number one. Number two is billionaires are bribing Trump to throw out judgments that were against them, to basically, what's the word I'm looking for, to pardon or commute the sentences of billionaires who have stolen money from Americans. So those people are now no longer having to pay these huge settlements to the American people, which means that that money that was going to go to the American peoples then instead went into Donald Trump's pockets. So let me know what you think about that, James Shoppy Shop. I don't really think that you are gonna take that for what it's worth, but what are you gonna do? Okay, John Abbott says HIPAA is about patient privacy and consent. If you give permission, your medical info can be published to the national news, and it won't be a HIPAA violation because you consented. Yeah, I think that's a really important point. Like, say what you want about people that are anti-vax, they're usually not quiet about the fact that they're anti-vax, and so. Yeah, I don't think that what we're looking at is massive HIPAA violations. I think what we're looking at are people that are being vocal, extremely vocal about the fact that they're not being vaccinated and then suffering the consequences for that. Okay. And Muzzking pointed out that the Secret Service was staying at Mar-a-Lago while Trump was there. And Trump, of course, is at Mar-a-Lago 24/7, basically. And there has been reporting suggesting that he is overcharging Secret Service for their rooms. So that is directly taking taxpayer money and putting it into Donald Trump's pocket. Gimberlina says, can you explain the impeachment process? If Noam is impeached, is she done with government forever? I believe that if you get impeached, but then also you have to be removed by the Senate. You have to be convicted in both houses in order for it to be a full impeachment. I believe then she would be ineligible for any government work going forward. I don't know I'm not 100% confident on that. That's just kind of, I just think that might be the case. Just extrapolating from what would happen if Donald Trump had gotten impeached. Sophia says, I usually just get the essential vaccines, not all of them, so that includes not getting the COVID ones. Okay, yeah, I guess my question then would be, do you believe that it is more dangerous to get the COVID vaccine or more dangerous to get COVID, potentially? Let me know what you think about that, Sophia. Kimberlina, all right, so yes, the impeachment process goes, the House starts the impeachment inquiry, and then they vote on whether or not to impeach the person that they have the trial for. After that person is impeached, or if they are impeached, the way that Trump was impeached twice, then that vote moves over to the Senate, and the Senate votes on either convicting them if they're currently out of office, like the second Trump impeachment, or voting to remove them from office, which would be, the first Trump impeachment. Let me know if you would like any more specific details than that. Right. Carmine says anti-maskers would claim asking them to mask up was a violation. Yeah. Some people would. Absolutely. Mamadeb says this regime is all about revenge and money grabbing. That is 100% accurate. Okay. Yeah. James Shoppy Shop, awfully quiet since I told him how Trump is stealing billions. So pretty interesting, I think. Alrighty. Let's see here. Average Joe says, that's what I don't get. If you're entitled to not get a vaccine, then I'm entitled to not hire you because of it. Yeah, I think Sophia was generally agreeing with that. Okay. All right, we're at almost an hour. Rena says, Sophia has a Trump flag in her bedroom. Yes, Rita, we do know about Sophia and her political leanings. Gene Parmesan, and I have nothing but love for you, Rena. You're my favorite. Gina Parmesan says the Senate has to hold a second vote to permanently disqualify someone from holding future federal offices. Now, is that true, Gene Parmesan, in the case of non-presidents? Because I was pretty sure that if the Senate had voted to impeach Trump the second time, then that would have invalidated him from being president. Or was the vote specifically for whether or not he could ever run for president or any kind of government office again? Let me know, Gene, because it sounds like you have... I meant cabinet secretary, sorry. But the cabinet secretary has to vote on that. Oh, interesting. Yeah, this is all new information for me, Gene. Let me know more, please. Okay, let's see here. Sophia says, I've gotten COVID 3 times. I'm fine. So I just don't think it's necessary, but not dangerous. Okay, so you've gotten COVID 3 times and you have been fine. Sophia, have you heard some of the reporting that says that every time you get COVID, it is worse than the time beforehand? Like, I don't know if this is tracking for like how you felt physically, but that it actually does more lasting damage to you each time that you get it. That's number one. Let me know if you heard about that. And number two is, do you think that it is appropriate for you to get COVID and then potentially risk infecting somebody for whom COVID could be fatal, like an old person, for example, or somebody with a compromised immune system? Let me know what you think about that, Sophia. Okay. User number says, how do you think of legalizing broccoli? I'm for legalizing broccoli. Gene Palmer says, not vote in it. If cabinet secretary convinced, then a second vote can be held for permanent disqualification. That's interesting. But what about when the president gets impeached? Is that also for him? Because I could have sworn that Trump's second impeachment was not just about convicting him for January 6th. It was about making sure that he would never run for office again. Is that one vote for the president? Is that more than one vote for the president? Is it different for other political offices? Let me know. Let's see here. Carmine says, okay, but has Rena read your book? I don't know, but she's one of my ride or dies. She's been here since day one. So, this is not a fan off, Wowza says, howdy back. Nope, can't vote says, think the Senate would ever remove him from office. Not while Republicans are in charge of it. That is for darn sure. Thomas says, hi, your opinion on ICE? They are a rogue agency acting illegally. They should be abolished. And the Customs and Border Enforcement there should be massive reforms and firings and legal accountability for all of the murders that have happened, among other things. Okay, Gene Parmesan says, yes, same for president. Interesting. Yeah, that's completely different from what I thought, Gene Parmesan. I'm Interested in learning more about that. Okay, Kimberlina says, you have a book. That's right. Back in 2016, I got hired to write a book making fun of Kellyanne Conway. It is available for sale on my website. And also, I'm working on a book of fiction right now that should be coming out maybe never. Who knows? We'll see. Jenna Jensen says, did you happen to hear that IDF is part of ICE? That is... I don't know. That sounds very sketchy to me. I don't think that foreign militaries can legally join law enforcement agencies in other countries. I'm pretty sure that that's not happening. I could be wrong about that, but yeah, that sounds a little out there for me. Okay, Willie says, book of fiction, are you writing about MAGA policies? That's very funny. James Shoppy Shop says, do you believe in the deportation of dangerous criminals? Yes, I do, James Shoppy Shop. Oh, isn't that interesting that she did not respond to any of the bribery stuff or the corruption stuff that you were asking about? Just moving on. But I will give it to you. James. That is a question in good faith, James. Okay, Chad Bitson says, do you know how I can see the evidence provided at Trump's hearing for his grape case in New York? I don't know, Chad, but if you send me a DM, I'll see if I can do a little Googling for you and see what I can find. James Shabby Shop says, need to look it up still. I am driving. All right, that's fair, James Shabby Shop. Period says, bro, talking about legally as if ICE hasn't murdered 2 people. What are you... Oh, wait, who are you talking about? Period. Are you talking about me? Because you know that I parse no words about ICE and CBE. Jabberjaw says, why do so many Republican voters hate policy that helps them, like taxing the rich? Misinformation and propaganda. Jabberjaw, misinformation and propaganda. People have been lied to consistently and expensively for a long time. So that, unfortunately, is where we are at. All right, everybody. That is going to be... We're going to start wrapping things up, getting your final questions. I want to thank everybody for being here. Thank everybody for the support. Thank you all for all that you do here, everybody. Regular streaming schedule is Monday through Friday, starting around 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. We're doing a special extra live stream on Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific time. It's going to be an Ask Me Anything about stand-up comedy, because I've got a stand-up album coming out. I have a stand-up special that is dropping this Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. I will be there watching live in the chat. So yeah, I hope that you guys will all check that out. Link is in the bio. And come by on Thursday if you have any questions about stand-up comedy or being a stand-up comedy, or my history as a stand-up comedian or whatever. Pink Love, Triska, OB, Dano, Lynn, thank you so much for helping me reach my second gift goal of the day. Carmine says, when's the Reddit AMA coming? So there will be a Reddit AMA tomorrow at 5 p.m. Pacific time on the Hofstetter subreddit. So if y'all know Steve Hofstetter and are part of his subreddit, that'll be happening tomorrow at 5 p.m. Pacific time. Another Ask Me Anything about stand-up. I want to thank everybody who supports the show financially, everybody who gifts, here on TikTok, and all of my subscribers and my patrons, Grimicus, Robert, Shannon, Carmine, Patrick, Dan Blackroyd, the 2 Seans, Sean 1 and Sean McGill. Y'all are the goats. And if you want to be a part of this illustrious group, everybody who's watching, you can. You don't have to. I know we're all struggling financially, but if you want to, you can. I have a Patreon that you can join for as little as $1 a month. I have a store you can buy things from on my website, and you can become a super subscriber. You can be a super fan on TikTok or a subscriber on Twitch. If you have Amazon Prime, you can subscribe to my Twitch channel completely free of charge, and that helps me out a ton. All right, Sophia says, I just try to distance from elders who are at a higher risk of COVID instead of getting the vax. So you try to separate yourself from elders. But you can be contagious before you know that you are even sick, Sophia. Did you know about that? Let me know. JC says, can reversing Citizens United be an amazing first step? Yes, I'm not sure how many votes we would need, if it would need to be a constitutional amendment or if it could just be a law that gets passed. I'm not sure about that, but it's 100% doable, depending on how many Democratic seats we win and if we win the presidency, etc. If there are any questions that I was not able to get to on this live stream or something comes up later, do not be shy about reaching out to me. I'm happy to engage when the live stream is not happening. So shoot me a DM, email me through my website, hit me up on my Discord channel. I want to be a resource for you guys to be more informed and more involved in politics. So if I can do that for you, I want you to use me. Use me and abuse me. Use me until I am all used up. James Shoppy Shop says, do you think Renee's shooting is valid by the law? No, I do not. James Shoppy Shop, not even a little bit. Dan Blackwood says, I make sure to isolate myself from the elderly is one way to go. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it is, if it's all that, Dan Blackwood, but I'm pretty sure we agree on that. And somebody once pointed out, Dan, that I had yet to make you a moderator, and somebody so deserving of being a moderator at that. So welcome to the party, pal. Okay, James Shoppy Stop says, care to do a breakdown? No, thank you. I do not need to do a breakdown of what was obviously a murder in cold blood. When you are scared for your life and you murder somebody, you shoot them 3 times in the head because you're scared for your life, you don't then go fucking bitch. That is somebody who was just mad at a woman talking back to them and at a lesbian, no less. Okay, Mateo says, have you any connection to Trump supporters? Yeah, I have an aunt that I don't talk to anymore. Dr. Trooper says, who's pro-vaccine here? I am. Cheer Girly 7 says, hi, hello back. Okay, user a bunch of numbers says, do you think Sophia is a white supremacist? I like to think that she's not, because she is openly engaging with a Jewish person here on the live stream who is in an interracial relationship. So, I hope not. That, I gotta tell you, Sophia, that would probably be a deal breaker. If you were a self-described and proud white supremacist, I think it would have to end all of our engagement going forward. Dr. Tripper says whites are superior, so that's a block. Congratulations, Dr. Tripper. Let's see here. All right. Discord is a great place to check out. The link is in my bio, everybody. There are great recommendations there for books and podcasts, and also nonprofit organizations that desperately need your help, your time, and your donations. If you are ever watching the TV or reading the news and you're fucking losing your mind and you're like, what's going on? What do I do about this? I have things on the Discord that you can do. So if you're ever like, what do I do? Go to my Discord, look at the work, pick one of those things, pick an organization that I've recommended, do some work for them, call them up. Even if you just donate $1 to them a month, that helps. You can make a difference here. We need people to do the work. And so I hope that everybody out there is doing the work, because it is extremely important that we all do the work. Okay, user a bunch of numbers says, I have a question about broccoli. Okay. JC says, it's so charming when people so clearly self-select for blockage. Yeah, seriously. Mateo says, come over. I don't know what that means. Sociology Doctor says, how are you? I'm pretty good. Okay, Kimberlina says, I'm white and I grew up eating the most bland food ever. I'm all for some cultural integration. That's pretty funny. Pink Love, thank you. I appreciate you being here. You still need more coffee. Great to see you again. Says, how can I refute someone that says, if I don't like it here, then leave? Combat veteran here and Hispanic. I guess there's a couple of different things that you could say in response, I suppose. There's the, I actually want to convince you that's not a great solution version. And then there's like the cheeky fuck you version. Like the cheeky fuck you version is, oh, so you are fine with immigration then. Like you think that people, if they're not happy with where they're living, they should be able to go to other countries. So you think that's okay for me to do to other countries. Why do you think it's okay for me to do this country? That seems kind of weird. That's like a cheeky response. I guess the more productive response might be something like, do you think that you have a more valid claim to the way that this country is run than someone like me, who is a citizen and a combat veteran? You know, are you the person that decides what this country is, and anybody who doesn't like it should leave, I guess. Okay, JC says, Trevor Norris says any white supremacists can only eat potatoes going forward. I don't disagree with that. User a bunch of numbers says it shadow bans my comment when I try to send it because it's about broccoli. Yeah, we got to be careful. We got to be careful with the way that we talk about things on the live stream. Because otherwise you get punished by the algorithms. Okay, let's see here. We got a couple of questions over on the Twitch. JP says, when is your show? My special premieres this Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific time on YouTube. Go check it out, everybody. I'd love to get a bunch of people watching during the premiere. I'm sure that would help us out a lot in the algorithm. Dan Blackbird says the broccoli lobby is watching. That's really funny. Real Bendis says, did you see how Christine Ohm survives this politically? The blind support is a disgrace. I mean, it just depends on who takes over control of the government. Real Benda, like all of these people can escape accountability depending on who we elect to represent us in the government, in the federal government. And so, we just have to do the work. There's no 100% she survives or doesn't survive this politically. It is only, do we do the work to empower the people who will make sure that she does not survive this politically and that she is not able to get another job in politics or government ever again. Magic Man says, is there anything smarter getting elected to highest office on the planet 2x as a non-politician? Is there anything smarter than getting elected to the highest on the planet twice as a non-politician? Yes, there are many things that are smarter than getting elected to the highest office on the planet 2x as a non-politician. I think the evidence of that is the fact that Donald Trump was elected twice to the highest office on the planet as a non-politician. So he's not smart. And therefore, it does not take a smart person to be able to do that thing. That just happened. Ready. Real Bendis says, I'm thinking no one becomes the fall guy on the Minnesota murders and resigns after the investigation. I think that you have more faith in the Republican Party than I do. Let's see here. User a bunch of numbers says, why do you think Sophia is against grass? I don't know how she feels about grass. Magic Man says he is the smartest. No, that is inaccurate, Magic Man. So we're just going to go ahead and get rid of you right now. So just to everybody who's watching right now who is a moderator either on TikTok or Twitch or on YouTube, I just wanted to make it clear that if you guys ever see like a really good comment or something that you want answered, or if I'm engaging with somebody and you don't think I saw the response, that you are allowed to pin their responses. Like that is part of your purview, I believe. If it's not there technologically, let me know. But I've seen other mods do it or something. So yeah, I support that. Like there's many times that the comments are coming fast and furious, and I'm not able to see the ones that I really wanted to get to. Bogos Binted, great to see you again. Has anyone ever told you that you look like Rabbi Shmuley? That feels offensive, Bogos. I don't know if that's a real person or just a Jewish stereotype. User a bunch of numbers. She vapes, though, so I don't know if she is against it. Yeah, who knows? I don't know. I don't love all of you guys digging into Sophia's social media. It feels bully-ish to me. Okay, Sociology Doctor says, who are the 22% who are not upset about the lack of the release of the Epi files? I mean, I think that there's a politics as team sport element to it, where no matter what Trump does, it's great and perfect. So those people are answering in the affirmative there. Probably people that don't think that it is a problem to do what Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump allegedly did. So yeah, there's a lot of super weird people out there. Okay. I'm going to get out of here, guys. Thank you so much for being here again. Thank you all for the gifts, the likes, the shares, the supports. Be good to each other. Do the work. Be good to yourselves. Self-care is part of the work. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. Hold on a second. I really want to see what Sophia said here. I'm not against legalizing. I agree with Democrats on that one. I think the government has to stay out of that. I'm so happy to be in coalition with you on that, Sophia. I wish that was enough to sway your vote, but I'm happy that we at least agree on that. Real Bendis says, Rabbi Shmuley is a legit author and a rabbi. It's a compliment. Okay. Fantastic. All right. Glad to hear it, everybody. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. Take care. Have a great Tuesday, everybody. Bye-bye. Goodbye, 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 goodbye. Goodbye, 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 goodbye.